Hello, Stackers. Hoosier Stacker coming at you from Southern Indiana. Welcome to the show, a Stackers gathering. Glad to see some familiar faces out there. Hello, Winning Image Photography. Steeler, Plumber, how are you? Yes, it is cold out there. Welcome to the north, buddy. We are about ready to go live with a couple of special guests here. In fact, one of them just dialed in. If you would be so kind, smash that like and subscribe. I'm trying to get over 100 subs. Hopefully I can without YouTube stealing any more away from me. I was actually up to 93 last night, then they took 10 away. So smash that like and subscribe, please. Hello, Salivate Mel. How are you?
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. All right, very good.
Excellent. How are you doing, sir?
Doing all right. How are you doing?
Not bad. Enjoying the cold weather, unlike Plumber. He's up in Virginia, so he's not liking the cold.
Oh boy. Right.
Yeah. Thanks for dialing in, Sal. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right.
So Yankee, he had to do a last-minute errand for Mrs. Yankee, so he said he's going to be a little late. He had to go to the grocery store, so he'll be in here in a little bit.
Very good. Okay. Sounds good.
So, Sal, what do we got going for your show tonight? Just a quick rundown here.
Well, we've got it is going to be our market watch, which we do every Sunday night. And it's going to be just kind of the regular thing, although these market watches have become quite exciting as of late with all the activity in the markets. And whenever the weekend comes, that's when the markets freeze. And so there's been some activity as of late. So the market watches have become kind of more popular. Because we kind of watch the movement of the precious metals, especially silver, and we may see some surprises. You don't know.
Yep, it's always a roller coaster ride, right?
Sure is. Yes.
All right, so while we're waiting for Yankee, let's go ahead and let's dive into this a little bit. So, tell me a little bit about your history with precious metals. I know you've been around for a while. Well, actually, you know what? Let me start because I can be done pretty quick compared to you. So, I started in April of last year, and I've acquired a little bit, as you can see here on my desk here. I've got a little bit of actually a lot of constitutional now, and a few bullion and a little bit of gold and stuff, and it's very much a very good starter box, if you want to call it that. For me to get as much as I have in the last year or so, I done pretty good. Now, before any of this, before beer flu, before anything, before last year, I had absolutely no idea on what. When it came to precious metal, not a clue. So I was never brought up with it when I was growing up. Never brought up with it, so I never was absorbed into it. So I never understood it until just this last year. How was tell me a little bit about your history, Sal.
Well, mine goes back as a collector to when my grandfather gave me a cleaned 1906 Indian head cent, and that coin set me into a frenzy of interest in coins, and it was so neat to be able to get this piece of history, that a design that I'd never seen before, never knew existed from yesteryear. And from that point on, I just kind of got interested in collecting coins in general. And then I got my first silver bar at the coin shop down where my grandfather lived, and it was a Johnson Mathey 1 ounce silver bar.
Nice.
And that was my first introduction to silver. And I was intrigued with it. So I started accumulating it. And of course, there was no community, there was no social media back then. And when the price kind of just hung around the $4 range, and
$4.
for quite a long time, I thought, well, you know what, I'm buying this stuff, and I bought 5-ounce bars. Some of them I've shown in my channel, and Engelhard and the like, because they looked cool. That's primarily the reason why I bought them, because they looked cool. And then I thought, well, I'm getting too many of these things. How many of these things do I really need? I was stacking before stacking was ever a term. Back then, you would have called it hoarding, because why do you have all this silver when it stayed $4 and $5 an ounce for 6-7 years, 8 years, 9 years, and then we got into the 2000s, and it kind of maybe went up to $8 an ounce or what have you. And when I started to see the prices go up, it got me kind of interested again, and I started buying a little bit more, but not a whole lot. And then, of course, the financial crisis happened, and that's when I started watching.
Yeah.
Oops.
My chair.
That's when I fell out of my chair. That's the financial crisis.
I really need to get a new chair. Go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then, so with that happening, I started watching YouTube. That's right. YouTube was around. It started in 2005, but around 2008 and 2009, there were some people talking about precious metals, and I started watching some of these folks. The one guy was the first Omega Man. He was actually called Omega Man, and he was from Australia. And he started really talking about silver. There's another guy named Gruppenführer or something like this. I forget the actual name, but he actually has made somewhat of a comeback. And he showed a bunch of gold coins, but gold was out of my range. I was just like, well, I want to get back into silver because it's more affordable.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And so then I started watching these guys, and I decided, you know what, this community is growing. I started to see other people show their silver and talk about it. And so in 2013, at the very beginning of that year, I decided I'm going to go ahead and just jump in and make a couple of videos. So that's kind of how it started, and kind of how it progressed and evolved for me.
So you've got a few years under your belt.
Yeah, I got a few years, and I've seen a lot. And I've seen a lot of activity and a lot of hype and a lot of excitement. Those are the things you can. Those two words are somewhat interchangeable, but one has a negative connotation and the other one has a positive connotation. And I believe to be excited about silver is certainly a good thing, but hype can work against you. And I think we're in a spirit or in a time right now where there's a lot of hype around silver, and it could come back and bite you in the rear end. You might fall out of your chair again.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so that's why I'm kind of taking a cautious approach to this silver squeeze. But I'm excited that people are getting into silver again and are showing an interest in it. But I do think it's something that people have got to be to watch out for and be careful, because we've been here before. I remember the crash JP Morgan buy silver days.
Yep.
And that was a pretty big movement. But people say, well, it's different now. But is it really different now? Yeah, there's probably more people. The social media is a lot more evolved and stuff now, but and who knows? I mean, we're closer now than ever before, I believe, to a reset. In fact, they're talking openly about it in Davos, and so that's going to have an effect on precious metals. But how long will it take? I don't know. There's a lot of things working against us, and in fact, in 2013, towards the middle of that year, I posted my largest unboxing ever. I cashed out one of my IRAs, thinking it's going to happen at any moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was wrong. I was completely wrong about that. So we don't know how long this is going to last. No one can really tell us, but the one thing that we all agree on, no matter what our viewpoints on how serious this is, and by the way, I do believe it is serious, is that stacking silver and gold, I think, is a wise thing to do. Would I put all of my money into silver or gold? Well, actually, I put a lot of money into it, but I would not recommend anybody do that. I would recommend people be safe and be prepared. And I think it's just as wise to maybe stockpile some food and maybe some ammo and maybe some other ways to be prepared as well. But precious metals certainly should be a part of that as well. Just be wise about it. Make sure you understand what you buy and buy what you understand.
Yep, very good words of advice because yeah, I do a lot of, like yourself, I do a lot. I don't do collecting as much as I do stacking. Which, speaking of stacking, Yankee's on here. Hey, Yankee, how are you?
How you doing?
Hey, Yankee.
Oh, what an honor to be here, especially with Sal, dude.
An honor to be here with you too.
Oh man,
Yes, indeed. I need some ice cream. Anybody got any ice cream?
I love the ice cream, but man, it'll make you fat if you get too much of it.
Hey.
tell me about it. Hey Sal, it's great. I was just sitting here listening to you and just talking about your history, talking about why you got into stacking, when you got into stacking, your philosophy. I just want to sit here and learn from you, man. You've got a wealth of wisdom right there.
Learn from the Zen master.
I don't know. Well, I appreciate that, guys, but you both have your own experiences, and certainly, I value your opinion and your experience too. You guys have been through, in different ways and different manner of form, and I think that everybody is on equal footing here because we each have our own research and knowledge that we've accumulated. We all can learn from each other. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's definitely a learning process for a newbie like myself. And by the way, Plumber Stacker was able to dial in. He's actually on chat here, so he made it up to Virginia. Cool. So, but that's all right. Now my journey started because I was actually looking at getting into precious metals before the bear flu, but when the bear flu hit, that was it. I was like, okay, I really need to get into it. So that's how I started. So I was just, like I said, I've only been into it for about a year. Yankee, you started. I know you and I've talked about this before. But you weren't into it your full life, right? Is that correct?
Oh, no. I came at it in fits and starts, little by little. The genesis, sort of the establishment of what I thought of in terms of silver and real money and that type of approach started with my dad. He was the one that kind of taught me early on as a kid, and then in high school in the mid 80s, my dad would bring me to a coin shop. We'd buy some junk silver back then. It was before the first American silver eagle had been made, so when we wanted silver, it was quarters, dimes, and half dollars back then, and he was teaching me that. I remember the very first silver dollar I received from my grandmother, my dad's mom. It was an 1889 Morgan, and I remember it came in a peppermint patty wrapper, and it was my birthday, and I think it was like 13, and I remember getting it, and I was like, why did Grandma send me a peppermint patty? Okay, open it up. I saw a Morgan, I think for the first time, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. This is absolutely gorgeous. My dad was telling me about it, and so I kind of had this interest. My grandfather was on my mom's side was a coin collector, so I put my pennies in the collector folder, and I collected all my pennies and everything like a lot of people did back then. But I really wasn't into stacking, right, until I probably a lot later in life. So I got a job when my full-time job was in 1988, and I remember talking to someone at work. His name was Bob, and he was telling me how to invest, and I was like, ooh, mutual funds, investing, what is all this about? Right?
Yeah.
So he taught me, showed me spreadsheets back then. Around 1990 is when I could start funding a 401k, and I started doing that, and that's when the recession hit. And it was interesting back then, the Fed kind of handled things a little bit differently, right? But Volcker was into cutting rates to battle inflation, and the Fed was trying to can use that as a tool to keep inflation down. Inflation was a nasty thing coming out of the 70s and into the 80s. We were trying to avoid that, but I was part of the big run in the 90s after that. When the markets were doing great, I was doing great, and I learned how to invest and what it meant to look at a balance sheet and a company and evaluate a prospectus. And just the whole concept of price and earnings. And I learned how to truly invest, not speculate so much, but invest.
Right.
And then, of course, the .com came rolling around and everybody was going bonkers. It was a new economy. All the old rules were out, and all my friends were like trying to make big bucks on all kinds of stuff. And it was a frenzy. I remember the frenzy. Don't worry about the fundamentals. Just do it. Look at the sticker symbol. I remember my wife and I were saying everything was something .com. We always laugh. We're like, yeah, I think we should go out to eat .com. Yeah,
Yep.
Laugh. And it was crazy
That
times.
was
That was
the buzzword.
But that is when things started to fundamentally change. Greenspan was really the first in the line of Fed chairman that handled things differently. We didn't go at it the same way. He looked at that .com and the bubble and the September 11th attacks and so forth, and we didn't handle it the same way. We stimulated. We started to look at let's keep the rates really, really low, and we started on another run. And that 2000 run was great, but I was nervous at that point. I was like, wait a minute, something's different here. And I wasn't fully woke yet. I was still investing heavily in the markets and thinking, okay, well, there's something wrong here. And when the Great Recession hit and the, everything popped, the housing, the subprime crisis, Bear Stearns, Freddie, Fannie, Lehman Brothers, AIG, all that,
yep,
right?
Yep.
The crisis in the automobile industry, all that. It was followed by unprecedented bailouts. I think it was like $700 billion for the banks, $700 plus $780, whatever it was, fiscal stimulus. Everything was radically changing then. And the Fed started a whole new process, a whole new radical. We had to, throw the old rules out. And that's when a lot of the Keynesian approach, John Maynard Keynes' mindset, really, really stuck and sank deep. And I know a lot of the Fed chairmen and others in the Federal Reserve have bought into this, and that's when it really took off. And so at that point, I said, I need to get out of the market, as I had been investing up till that point. And I liquidated. I got out of the stocks. I went into bonds. I got out of bonds. I went into gold. That's when I bought my Yankee Cannon. That 2009 was when I bought the tube of gold. It was primarily gold at that point. And I was thinking, just like Sal was saying, something big was about to happen. But the stimulus worked for a while. The incredible balance sheet inflation worked. And then we kicked the can up the mountain and it looked like, okay, everything is going to be all right. Still didn't get into stocks. That's when I got into private mortgage lending for the last 12 years or so. And I started to be satisfied, not with the huge 20, 30, 40% return on investment, but 8, 9, 10, 11, 12%. That's what I was thinking. I was shifting away from growing my portfolio to more preserving it. I was getting older now. I was in my 40s. I thought, okay, I start to handle this a little differently. And then I thought, okay, I need to start prepping. I need to start preparing for what is going to come, because they just kept doubling down. And then when, the latest COVID-19 recession hit, we went all in. It was now game on. There is no end to the stimulus. Rates will always be zero. And talks of going negative and doing crazy, crazy stuff, buying up stocks, the Fed doing, moral hazard type of activities to the nth degree. And I realized, okay, there is no way out of this. We have crossed the Rubicon. Things aren't going to go back. We're never going to be able to pay off this debt. We are all in. So we kicked the can again up the mountain a bit more, and this big, huge recovery occurred, right? This K-shaped recovery, and I realized inflation is now all in on asset bubbles. We are blowing the biggest bubble in our economy, and when it pops, I think it's 3 strikes and we're out. That is my opinion. Now, I don't know when that's going to happen, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll kick it up even higher, but I don't think they can. I think this is it. I think they've really sealed their fate. So that's when I started in 2018 to really start stacking silver. So before COVID hit, I was stacking like crazy, trying to get get ahead, because I think a lot of people like Sal and others have been stacking silver a lot longer than I have. So I did want to play some catch up there.
Oh yeah.
And just build my stack. So that I took about 8 minutes on that. Sorry about that. So I just want to give you my background a little bit about my stacking history.
No, it's good information, because it really drives home where we all come from, right? I come from a relatively poor upbringing myself, and I was never exposed to precious metals at all until just last year. So for me, yeah, it's taking some used to, and I got my work cut out for me, but it is fun. It is, I've learned a lot, and the community is absolutely awesome. Great information. They just and they're always out to help each other the most that we can, and I definitely appreciate that.
Hoosier, one other thing that I run into a lot, I don't know if Sal can relate to this, but I by nature am probably not an optimist or a pessimist. I know I probably look like a pessimist to optimists, and I probably look like an optimist to pessimist, but I like to think of myself as a realist. And I've been thinking about this today a little bit before the stream. I want to think the best. I want to be proud of our nation and all that it stands for, and our history and the freedoms that we, espouse and have supported throughout the world. I'm a patriot. I love my country. I just love what we've done as Americans. I'm very proud, but I'm not proud of a lot of things that we are doing. And I'm not going to get into the social aspects or the political aspects, but I'll keep it, with the economic. I'm not proud of what we've done. And looking at that, I have to say that it would be sticking my head in the sand economically for me to think that all this is going to turn out okay. And just because I do that, or just because I want it to, I'm resisting the temptation to do that. I'm not going to. I'm a realist. What we're doing is wrong, and what we're going to experience is going to be epically bad if we don't stop. And again, that comes across as pessimistic sometimes. Even prepping can come across as being pessimistic to some people, but I don't see it that way.
I agree with you, Yankee. Definitely. I mean, it's definitely a bad situation. I think this is why. I think even the powers that be understand this too, which is why they're trying this great reset. In Davos, and it's all orienting around implementing. What you talked about, modern monetary theory is being implemented. That's par for the course now. And they're gonna put that in overdrive. I think it's gonna be essentially a new type of crypto or blockchain or ledger system derived around the new dollar or whatever they come up with. And they're gonna also social engineer us as well with this. And I think that's another road they're going down. Equitability equity is the word is the term that's being utilized, and Janet Yellen has already talked about it, and it's something that it's really going to be troubling, and if they can take and they can social engineer our financial system, this is all the more reason why we should hold something that can't be engineered, gold and silver, no matter what they do with it. And that's the thing that makes me a little bit nervous about cryptocurrencies too, because they are it's a ledger system.
Just a little, Sal? Just
yeah,
a little?
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Dude, I honestly think that one day we're going to read in the paper or online or wherever it is, we're going to read that the bubble was pricked and crypto had a big part in that. In fact, they may even name it the crypto recession or the crypto bubble. That really typifies what's going to happen. I don't think that's the reason, but I do believe that I think the reason is what the Fed has done in our monetary policy. But I do think I wouldn't be surprised if when that happens, when it pops, the panic will cause a contagion that's going to spread, and the people will be selling like crazy, and it's going to cause panic in the markets. And it's going to bleed into a whole bunch of other things. It could bleed into the housing market. It could bleed into the banking sector. It could bleed into all kinds of stuff. It would be interesting to see what it will be that triggers it this time around.
We saw a very, very tiny, minute portion of that in March of last year when everybody ran to the safety of cash, and we saw silver go down to under $12 an ounce,
Right.
gold dropped, and all these other assets,
Right.
and all these different things. Everybody ran to the safety of cash. So I think you're right, Yankee. When this thing hits, it's going to hit hard. Now, as to how quickly it is, and what happens, I don't know. What I'm careful about, and I'm probably more cautious about this and conservative with how I approach this on my channel. But I don't, and I don't disagree with a lot of your assessment. But what amazes me is how long this has been able to go on after the third round of quantitative easing. Now we're in QE4 to infinity.
Right.
And our debt is growing. We're going to hit $30 trillion. The people don't even care about the debt anymore.
That's just a buzzword anymore.
Right. It's just a buzzword. And deficit spending and all this.
It keeps working until it doesn't. And I hear you, man. I do. It reminds me of that famous quote from John Maynard Keynes, which I don't like him in terms of his economic policies, but he said the markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent.
That's right.
And especially if you try to short this thing, you'll probably lose your shirt trying to figure out the exact timing. So I hear you. I agree.
Yeah.
But it is going to pop. And I'm guessing timing is tough and you never can know for sure. But I really believe that we're going to see it in our lifetimes. I really do. I don't think they can go, decades like this. I really don't. And it has changed. It wasn't, you can't say, well, it's been like this all the time. No, there was a radical shift that occurred over the last couple of recessions and how it was. And if you just look at any hockey stick chart out there, you can see it graphically. The game has changed. This is not the same anymore.
and I think what's impressive about your experience, Yankee, is that you've been in the markets. You've seen it much more than I have. That's for sure. You've had money in. You've seen the .com bubble. You've been a part of it. You've gotten nervous about it, and that's why you got out of it, because I
did ride through the .com bubble. I didn't sell. I was like, you know what? It's a dip. Buy into the dip. Hold on. It always comes back. But then when the Great Recession hit and the response was totally unlike we'd ever seen, I said, no, the game has changed. The fundamentals aren't there anymore. People don't really care about investing. Computer-based trading and in the speed of light that things have. Everything has changed. And I don't want to be heavily in dollar-denominated U.S. assets in the markets, equities, I should say. And the bond market's even a bigger bubble. I don't want to be in that. So while I do have some equities, it's very much focused on undervalued, underappreciated, contrarian type of moves here. I'm looking at real tangible assets. I not too long ago invested in food and agriculture. I invested, I think that's going to do quite well in a recessionary or an inflationary environment. I also got into wood, lumber. I got into tangible assets that aren't the high flying tech stocks or the, Bitcoin. I'm looking at it contrarian. I'm looking at it as like where everybody's running to. I want to be skeptical about, preserve my wealth, and maybe invest in some areas where, the upside is larger with, maybe a skeptical perspective. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. I totally get that. And that's the very wise thing to do, for sure. Yeah.
What I've noticed here, probably for me in the last, by the way, I turned on my mic suppression, so hopefully you don't hear all the background.
That's what we do. Actually, that's part of the problem. It's very loud.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you that in the private chat.
Yeah,
sorry.
The gain. I think it's the mic gain.
That was the gain inside. It's actually the gain inside of the. Actually, the gain inside here. Now, No, for me, I lost my train of thought. Oh, for me, I'm looking at this from a, as I've gotten older, probably in the last 10 years or so, I've gotten a little bit more conservative myself. I remember at one time I would just throw everything into the most riskiest thing. I didn't care.
Mhm.
Nowadays, especially now, not so much the case.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think it's tough when you're young and you're building your portfolio and your wealth and you're trying hard. I knew how hard it was for me when people were saying, "Dude, you got to get into pets.com. Come on, Yankee. What's wrong with you? You're going to miss out on the ride." And it was hard. It was hard for me to stick with more conservative stocks because I wanted in, right? But even now, I think it's even a bigger challenge to resist the temptation to buy Dogecoin and to
Right.
just go nuts. And I think this is the problem. I think we have made it so difficult for millennials and Gen Zs to invest prudently, to be able to put money away and earn a rate of return on interest. That whole concept is out the window. We're demanding, even those on fixed incomes, like my parents are in their 80s, are struggling because they feel forced to gamble. And that's what we have. We have a gambling mentality. I think culturally too, if you go back a few decades, gambling itself, whether it be in sports or, in Vegas, has really changed. The mindset of people is far more into gaming than it was when I was growing up. So that whole societal shift has been about, let's roll the dice. Let's just gamble this money. And eventually that is going to hurt all of us.
Mhm.
It's going to end badly. And yeah, that's my concern for especially my children.
Sure is a problem. I mean, it is the mentality. It's the quick fix. We have our, there used to be a point in time where we had the 15 minutes of fame. Now it's a 15 seconds of fame, and GameStop just went through a 15 seconds of fame, and now look what it is. It's
Amazing.
it's just, and I tell you what, I've always been kind of nervous about the stock market because I did kind of see it as gambling. I just don't take a part. I just don't take part in it. I have my work. I have my work
Right.
retirement plan or whatever, but that somebody else handles that, and they've kind of but it's all this very conservative and how the money is divvied out and so forth. But it's too complex. There's too much that you have to really, even with some of these mining stocks. And by the way, some of these mining companies are doing really well now, but you have to know about each company and how they do it. It's risky.
Right.
But
Right.
some people do the research and they know, and I have great admiration and respect for people who do trading in the markets, whether it be mining stocks or GameStop, as long as you know what you're doing and you understand the risk and understand the potential loss. But when you don't understand it, you get burned in the end because of the peer pressure on Reddit
FOMO.
or whatever.
It's
Yeah,
FOMO.
FOMO, that's right.
And a lot of it is a pyramid scheme. A lot of it. Now I break it down a little bit more discreetly. Maybe I see it in three different buckets. One is investing, and I still think it's possible to invest. Then I see speculation. I see speculation bucket, and I can see speculating in some things and being willing to take a risk, the higher risk. And then I see the gambling, where people are literally buying stocks not knowing at all what they are, sometimes just because of the ticker symbol or momentum, just because somebody gives them a tip, just because, before the Great Depression, the shoe shy boys would be telling people on Wall Street what to bet because they heard it as a tip. And I heard that one stock went up overnight because of Wall Street bets, and I think it was ARG or ARG or something like that. And
AMC, I think it was AMC, I believe.
No, it wasn't AMC. There was a different one. No, I know that one, but there was a different one, and it only went up because the way the ticker sounded, ARG or something.
Wow.
No, people
Okay.
were doing that, and that is gambling. That is mindless gambling, and I really think that is just full of risk. So while most of my investment portfolio has nothing to do with equities now, some of it is investing, a little bit of it. I speculate just a tiny hair in mining stocks and others, and then I don't do any gambling with it.
And you think about it, this is somewhat human nature to some degree. I'll give you a historic perspective. During the gold rush, the 49ers, they discovered gold in California. In the early 1850s, well, these people saw these ads in the New York Times or the papers back east. They said there's gold to be had out here. People traveled great distance, obviously across the country to get there, but some of them saw what was going on, and this kind of piggybacks on what you're talking about, Yankee. Is there's people that actually made the most money by selling supplies.
Right.
And all of the things and all of the equipment,
the boom towns.
It's boom towns. Those are the people that made out the most in that era, in that time period. And so that's the kind of thing that people they essentially feed off of the ignorance of some people that don't do the research and take this big gamble, this bet they'll be able to find and stake a claim,
right,
and then come out empty-handed.
I didn't mean to make it sound like it was something novel and not human nature. It is absolutely human nature to try to get rich quick. I think of the old quote that said, "A fool and his money are soon parted." Right. It's true. This goes back eons, right? It's nothing new. But what is new is the speed and availability that was unlike anything we've ever seen. Even during the gold rush, it was a big commitment, an investment of time, and to travel across the country, spent years doing what they're doing. We can do it in nanoseconds now. We can click it in our phones before we even get out of bed. It has become so ubiquitous and so fast that it is now a whole different scale of gambling that we've never seen before.
Which means you can lose very fast and very quickly.
No, right?
Yeah.
It comes down to it's gotten too easy to some extent because people don't really do a lot of the research. They just click the button and go.
Yep, that's right.
It can I was thinking of the gold rush. Can you imagine? Like, I'm going out there. It's 1849. I'm going to strike it rich. And the wife would be like, "What are you talking about? I got to buy my supplies and I got to, argue this." And maybe there was a lot of conversations and all. It took a while probably to make that type of commitment to do something that risky. But now, like you said, it could happen before you speak to anybody. You talk to anybody about your buy and sell. It can be done like that. So accountability sometimes gets lost. Taking your time to think through what you're going to buy. I mean, it's so fast now. I just think we're going to pay the price as fast as it takes to make a trade. I think it's going to happen overnight.
Somebody was saying, I heard some commentary about somebody talking about the dollar, and by the time we reach hyperinflation, it's already over. That's it. It's going to happen that fast.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is.
And you talk about the dollar reset, Sal, which was good. That really does scare me because we're not going to reset it, in my opinion, with something that's stable and real money. We're going to try to replace it with another fiat currency or a basket of currencies. It may be, I don't know, the special drawing rights from the IMF or something crazy. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it'll be something else.
It's going to be something that's going to be based off of a even less or a central planners in Europe or the UN or the IMF is going to be. It's going to be a world current. It's going to be a global currency.
Yes,
every currency will be digital,
and I think it'll be digital.
Yep.
Well, it's definitely trials and tribulations here, and everything was predicted in the biblical days, right? But we were going to start going down this road of trials and tribulations. I think this is the beginning of it.
I think so too.
Yep, I do.
So let's change gears here real quick here. I know Sal's got to get out to get ready for his 6 o'clock. So I want to touch on really quick on the community. How do you guys? I'll start with you, Sal, since you got to get out here. How does the community inspire you, or what can you contribute to the community that inspires people to do what they do?
Well, I think people like you, Yankee Stacking, you learned a lot from your content. I learned so much, And I think that's what it's about. It's about everybody's experience and encouragement. I think experience, encouragement rule the day. Everybody's different in their own way, and I think that is what really helps to pull us together. We can even have disagreements. In the end, it boils down to we hold gold and silver to be self-evident. They are what they are, and part of what that is as a store of wealth, a store of value. And I think that is something that we can all agree on, no matter what our experiences are. We all come to the same place. And not only that, but the humanity in this community is just amazing. The compassion, the
There you go.
generosity,
Yep.
Yep.
all of that is just built upon each other. I feel so, in many ways, fall short in many of those other some of those aspects. It's so hard. I try my best to go around and watch other channels and show support, but I feel like, man, there's just so much. It's overwhelming. The community is growing. It's wonderful to see, and I think it's because of good folks like you and Yankee and others that have really just helped build this up, and that's what it's about.
Your turn, Yankee, and yes, I am teasing you. If you didn't see that on the screen here, this is a tease. This is a tease.
Mine's on its way.
Oh, did you get one? Did you get one?
Right.
Oh, Sal, you should have heard Yankee. He was whining the last time he and I talked about. I want Buffalo. I want Buffalo.
Whining.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
That's a what year is that one, Hoosier?
That's actually a 2008.
Okay, cool. Oh yeah, nice. Yeah.
This is actually my very first gold. Well, the very first gold ever was a 2008 proof, and I actually got this with a trade of silver.
Nice.
So
that's a key year too. That's the year they made the fractionals. So yeah.
Okay, well, learn something new every day. Okay, that's all, Yankee. So you got your Buffalo on the way.
So let me just piggyback a little bit on what Sal said. And by the way, he is the godfather.
Oh, here we go.
And what he says, and when he talks about the community, he speaks with authority more than I do. I've only been here since really 2018. I'm a noob.
Whatever.
No, it's true. No, it's
your
true.
Your channel's blown up though.
Yeah, but forget about the subs. Now, forget about the subs for a minute. It's credibility that goes back many years that Sal brings to the table. All right. And I mean that. I mean, it's somebody, there's a lot of people that come and go. He's been a rock, someone who's been here for the long haul, and people rely on and believe in. So I mean that. I really mean that from my heart. But to speak to the community in general, I think there's a societal shift that's happened over the last decade or so that people have really looked to social media as not just an interesting outlet, but a source of meaning, purpose, and connectivity. And it has become more than I ever expected it, being a part of the early years of the internet and helping establish it in my own career and so forth. I never saw that it would be something so important. And especially during this last year and a half or so forth, just over a year with COVID, people are needing an outlet, a place of congregation that they can feel a part. I mean, it's almost like the Cheers show from many years ago, right? A place where everybody knows your name, right?
Yeah.
You could go and feel connected. This is unique, and within that broader social media construct, this community is even more unique. My son, Little Stacks, tells me, Dad, this is unlike any other community I've ever seen in the gaming community or in other types of niche areas. People are not toxic. And I speak, broadly here in generalization. People are not toxic. They're giving, supportive, kind, compassionate. I mean, it really is unique. I don't know if it's because of the demographics involved here or the reasons that we stack and prep and do things like that. Maybe it forms a certain culture, or a certain type of person is drawn to this. I don't know what it is, but it is far more supportive than I ever expected. My small way of giving back has been to just, like Sal, be a part of people's live streams and help them coach them where I can through my memberships, and also my praying with Yankee, which I try to do not because I'm trying to promote myself at all or gain anything monetarily, but because people desperately need support on a spiritual level. They need to be able to pray and support each other and lift each other up. And it has been a very blessed thing for me to be involved with. I'm just a tool, and
that is something, and I
God
think
is using me there.
It is an amazing thing you're doing, Yankee, for sure.
Well,
that
and
is,
if it wasn't me, Sal, it would have been somebody else. Okay, I'm just an instrument in my Lord's hands, so I give him all the credit there. But I really do. I really am amazed at
your willing
the type
vessel
of
in that
people.
regard
Well,
too, and I think that's amazing.
there's a lot of giving people in our community, Sal. You know this. People that show generosity that just blows my mind, and really support and help people. So one of the reasons why I prep too, Sal, it's not just so that I can hoard food and water, but so that if the situation, God forbid, ever happens, that you take, say, what's happening in Texas or what happened in, with Katrina, and you multiply that to the whole country. I want to be able to be here to help others and give them the hope and good news of Jesus, and give them subsistence and support and help in my local area. So, that's the type of community we have, really giving and supportive one. And I'm so glad and blessed to be a part of it.
Well, Mailman AG says it the best, because we are family. Absolutely.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I love this community, and that's why I put so much effort into providing, as the content that I can, and and primarily to get this live stream thing going, because I really want to contribute. And from a tech point of view, this is up my alley when it comes to techie stuff. So,
right. Well, and I hate to interrupt you there, but I do have to go to prepare for mine. But I thank you so much, Hoosier, for having me on, Yankee. It's always an honor and a pleasure, and I appreciate you both.
Likewise, brother.
And I will talk to you maybe on mine, but if not, keep going and have fun. And thank you so much for having me on, Hoosier.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate you coming on board. It is inspiring. So yeah, you gotta go do your show. So we'll catch us. We'll catch you then.
Take care, Sal.
See ya. Bye-bye.
That's always great to have a good conversation there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's full of wisdom too. I mean, you come out of a conversation with him more knowledgeable than when you first went in.
It's just amazing the amount of knowledge that he has, and I don't know if it's because he's really into it, or if he just, it's just years of exposure,
I think it's both. But he's been doing it a while. And he's also something I admire too. He's more of a collector stacker than I am.
Mm-hmm.
He really does enjoy the beauty and the excitement that comes from stacking.
Yeah.
He loves his series of certain types of higher premium silver, and he loves to showcase certain unique trends in coin collecting as well. So he's in tune to that, and I respect that. As a more of a prepper stacker, mine's a little less enticing and exciting as his channel and what he shows. But we all have, like he said, we all have our rationale, our reasons for stacking, and our approaches, and there's room for all of us here.
Yeah, they real quick, I'm thinking about it. I don't know if you can see the chat or not, Yankee, but Silver Steeler threw this in here earlier while I didn't know if you had a chance to see that or not. I know he's about ready to take off, so.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I don't want to be pessimistic about my nation. Absolutely not. I think if we were to correct things and to become more responsible fiscally, monetarily, we could turn this around. We're Americans. We can do all kinds of things. This is the greatest nation on earth, and I'm a proud patriot. But I refuse to be a Pollyanna and say everything is okay, everything's just fine, and just go on as if nothing's wrong. That is wrong. I think we need to be maybe precious metal prophets, you know what I'm saying? And be willing to stand apart from the norm and say, no, that we got to stop this. Universal basic income and modern monetary theory. No. Keynesian economics. No, it's wrong. It's wrong. Socialism is wrong. It's been proven
Socialism
wrong.
is bad. Yeah.
We fight against the grain. Sometimes we're called boomers because the younger crowd think that we're out of touch. We don't understand what's going on. It's a new economy. It's a new world. It's a new way of thinking. You're stuck in the old ways. What is this? 1958? No, that's not what we're talking about. I'm a technologist. I've spent 35 years in my career as a technologist, a cybersecurity specialist, and networking, and I love technology. I love the concepts of blockchain and distributed ledger technology. I actually understand it. I've read books on it. It's phenomenal. But wait a minute, that doesn't mean that we buy Dogecoin, and it doesn't. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference between technology and mindless, lemming attitudes towards speculative, plays out there. It's just, it's different.
See, what worries me is, this big buzz about Bitcoin or whatnot is it's happening so fast that, when the U.S. dollar took decades and decades to get to where it was, and here we are within 10 years. 10 years now, right?
Yeah, it
on Bitcoin.
Faster.
Now,
speed change.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it's the technology has made that to happen, but it just seems like it. It's almost like a quick Band-Aid for something that is going to be very hard to control the bleed.
I think we need to be careful what we ask for. I mean, we love technology. I love technology. I love the digital currencies we already have. Shoot, we already have it with PayPal and credit cards and so forth. Digital is here, and it's convenient, and I love it. I love the speed by which we can do things. But with that comes risk. Risk of loss of privacy, risk of giving up control, having the government control what we get, when we get it, how we spend it. When we go digital, full on digital, I've argued I don't believe it's current crypto. I don't think it's Bitcoin. I don't think it's some other altcoin. I think it's central bank digital currencies. I think the CBDCs are going to be what rules and will kick current crypto to the curb. I say that many times. I think it's not going to matter when the Fed can inject money directly into our digital wallets, control what we spend, when we spend it, say, hey, if you don't spend it in a month, it's gone. That's what the masses are going to want. They're not going to want Bitcoin. They're going to want that. They're going to want to be able to spend it, because people don't really buy Bitcoin because they think they can transact with it. They buy it so that they can become millionaires or billionaires.
Yeah.
That's the reason. They're hodling it for a reason. They want the money so that they can buy things, assets, other things, right? They don't want Bitcoin. You can't even hold it. They want things. So when the government says, we can give you things, we can give it to you in spades, and we're going to make it very easy for you, that is what's going to be in control. I don't want that. Don't get me wrong. I don't want central bank digital currencies around the world. I don't want a central currency for the world. I'm not asking for that, but I think that's what's coming.
Well, it's because they already have their foundation in place, right? So they can probably implement something like that easier than any freelancer. They'd have their organization. Unfortunately, it's just how it is.
I think the next time we see the bubble pop, it's going to be so epic in nature. The country will be screaming for the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and the government, basically, to come and step in, and that will be the death knell of the dollar. And I think everybody's going to be looking just for the handout. We've become that as a nation. And again, I won't speak bad. I mean, there's so many great patriots in our nation. So many people that don't want to take the federal money, but hey, shoot, they're like, if they're going to give it out, I might as well take mine, right? I'm going to buy silver with it. I hear that a lot. Well, that's a dead end road. That's going to destroy it.
That's actually what I did with my first stimulus. That's what started the ball rolling. Convert into precious metals.
but that's because they're handing out this fiscal heroin. We're not going to give it back. They'll just give it to somebody else, right? It's wrong though. It's just because it's not maybe distributed the way we might want it. It still doesn't make it right. I've heard people argue, no. We need this, but we need it for those that truly need it, not the big banks, not those that make a certain amount of money. And I'm thinking to myself, no, it's bad. However you slice it, whoever gets it, but we've gone so far now. I don't think there's turning back. I really don't.
Yeah, and that's actually a good segue, because the last question I have before we call it this evening is $30 trillion in debt. How are we going to get out of that? How do you think, what's going to be the best way? There was mention of bringing manufacturing back into the U.S., which I fully understand and appreciate in my profession. The Oregon Stacker mentioned that, which I think is tremendous. But how do you think? How are we going to get out of? I mean, short of killing us with taxes, how are we going to get out of $30 trillion of debt?
Yeah. Well, I think quadrillion is going to be the new trillion.
No,
okay?
man.
I think we're gonna kind of chuckle at trillion. How quaint, like we did with billion. I used to remember when with the bailouts hit at billions, 700 billion. Now that's nothing. I think we're going to see it much, much higher. And I love that point about bringing back our manufacturing, actually making things again, producing as a nation, not us being primarily a service industry, a service economy, but manufacturing. But do you know what that would take, Hoosier? That would take close to 20 years. The infrastructure that we would need to build, the factories, the training that would have to occur. Are we willing to invest that amount of time? We are such a give it to me now environment now. A whole new generation is what's in it for me. To wait that long, it's going to be difficult. And to answer your question, what's going to solve it? I think a collapse.
Yeah,
I hate to say it. I don't want it.
I hate to hear it too, but
that's the wake up.
Yeah,
that's when it's all stripped away, and we're left with poverty across the board, and our way of life and our standard of living is far beneath what we've ever experienced before. I think that's when we dust ourselves out of the ashes and we rebuild it right. And I don't want that. I think we should be able to learn without going to there. But I don't think I think it's going to take that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right too, Yankee. Because if we would have been aware of this concern, we would have done so about this 20 years ago, or 15 years ago, or 10 years ago, and we aren't. We just keep printing the dollars. So yeah, it's. Not looking forward to the next 10 years or so. I know you've mentioned 10-year timeline, but we'll see. No one has a crystal ball.
Yeah. I keep trying to find one, but the Yankee crystal ball just doesn't exist yet. But no, if I did, I know exactly what to do. We'd all know what to do. But it could go a lot longer. It could go beyond my lifetime. I doubt it. And I highly doubt my children are going to be able to escape the ultimate conclusion of this.
I just wonder.
Craziness.
I just wonder how many generations are going to be impacted over this. We'll probably be long and dead, but by the time it really hits. But I feel for the future generation.
We may be living through it. We may have to help the other generations, and I look to my parents, and they have full of wisdom, right? Their whole generation, they look at what's happening, and they can't wrap their mind around the technology like I can, but they realize something has been dramatically lost as a culture.
Yeah,
and that's we've gained a lot, but yet we're the most separated, most depressed, most anxious generation that has ever come along, and that tells you something, right? All this technology, all this advancement, and progress, it comes with a price, and I think we're losing something in the process.
Yeah, it's definitely, as I said earlier, it's definitely a tribulation, and we just have to be prepared. As I always say on whenever I'm talking or typing, get your house in order.
Yes, and I don't think stacking, prepping is necessarily the ultimate answer.
No, there's many
I'm gonna
others.
tell you, no, I'm going to tell you right now, Hoosier, because you were gracious enough to have me on here as a co-host. I'm going to tell you what I call my ultimate prep. And most people know this, but my relationship with God through Jesus Christ is my ultimate prep. Whether this all works out or not, I know who is my Father, and I know my ultimate destiny. And that was what ultimately gives me hope and peace, no matter what comes. So yeah, I'm going to still stack, and I'm going to still prep, and I'm going to still try to do the right thing. But that is my ultimate prep.
Yeah, it will be quite interesting in the next 10, 20, 30 years. And I think Oregon, got it pretty good when he said that, he's thinking 3 generations. Oregon Stacker mentioned 3 generations, which sounds optimistic. We'll see.
Yeah, that's a classic line. I remember that as a kid. One of the multimillionaires that taught me a lot when I was young said it takes 3 generations in general. There's one generation that is, struggling, and the next generation makes the wealth because of that struggle. And then third generation wastes that wealth. And then it starts over again. The next generation is poverty and has to start from scratch again. It's just a three generation type of approach. I remember that.
Yeah. That's crazy. Well, I tell you what, let's go ahead and kick everyone out to the curb, Yankee. As Sal
so
calls it. As
So
Sal.
you have 9 people in the chat here. It's awesome to.
We were up to about 12, so it's
great.
It's good. It's good exposure. So, yeah, kick everyone out to the curb, and so we can get onto Sal's channel or Sal's 6 o'clock market watch. This is my pre warm up show for his show. So,
Warm up show.
Plumber and I decided that we're going to do this. We're going to do a 4:55 show for Sal's show on Sundays, and then we're going to do the same thing on your Yankee Live on Thursdays. So
cool. Hey, Plumber, you got to get on here, dude. I see him in the chat. Come on, man.
Yeah, he's shoveling snow.
No,
I don't know what. Yeah, he's taking care of personal business. Yeah, I think Yankee, thank you very much. I do appreciate you coming on board on me, especially at the last moment like that. I know Sundays are busy for you.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. My pleasure. Have a great one.
All right, Yankee, thank you.
Take care.
All right, guys, thank you for stopping by and watching the show. I do greatly appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and kick you all to the curb. Let's jump onto Salivate Mail's 6 o'clock market watch. Let's go raid the guy. Talk to you over there, and have a great day, everybody. And just keep stacking.